Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Hi, so this is a talk that we're having for the Giving campaign. Just to tell those of you who are new to Microsoft, the Giving campaign is a few weeks every October, and it's a really good idea to give the maximum that you can possibly give to things that you care about, to causes that you care about. And Microsoft will match up to $12,000. I think you have to have been here, 6 months or something like that? I'm not sure.
They start matching at the moment you get here, but they wait 6 months.
Okay, good. So they start matching at the moment you get here, but they wait 6 months. So I know that some of you are new employees in the last 6 months, but you can still pledge and get matched. Okay. And so people walk around these few weeks saying, what should I give to? What's a good cause? So I'm bringing in some people to tell you about a good cause. It's the Viet Nam Scholarship Fund, or Scholarship Foundation. They came and spoke to us also a couple of years ago, and it's a really exciting effort. And the people who are going to speak to us today are Gwen Vu, and she is the chair of the Scholarship Foundation, and Paul Tamura, who is the vice chair of the Scholarship Foundation. So just make sure to write down Viet Nam Scholarship Foundation, and when you go to give, just type that in, and they're already in the system. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hi. So the Viet Nam Scholarship Foundation, or you can look up our website, which is VNSFG.org. So sometimes you can hear VNSF. That's also our name. Again, my name is Gwen, and so I'm here with Paul, and we're just going to tell you a little bit about our foundation. The Viet Nam Scholarship Foundation was founded here in Seattle in 2002 by a group of friends. One of the founding members, he's a Vietnamese American who have been here in the States for a long time, and in 2001 he went back to Vietnam, and for the first time after about 20 years of being here in the States. And according to him, he had a lot of fun being in Vietnam, visiting families, visiting relatives and all that. But when he came back, he was depressed for quite some time, and then he realized why he was depressed. He was really bothered by what he saw in terms of the poverty that he saw in Vietnam, and how the conditions that people were living in Vietnam. And so along with his friends, they decided to establish a scholarship foundation just to help break the cycle of poverty in Vietnam. And so it was established in 2002.
So I'm going to give you some basic facts about Vietnam to start off with. The population is 85 million people, and that makes it the 14th most populous country in the world. 80% of those people are rural. So there are a lot of people in Saigon, a lot of people in Hanoi, but almost everybody lives in small villages. They survive on subsistence farming and fishing. The per capita income is $700 per person per year, and that doesn't go very far. And 29% of the population is below what the Vietnamese consider their own local poverty line. So there's a great need out there. The statistics on education in Vietnam are that 17%, that's about 1 in 6, have no formal schooling at all. And about half the people start primary school but aren't able to finish it. 23% actually finish primary school but aren't able to go on to high school. Only 7% finish high school. and 7% get a higher education. And so those people who finish high school and college are almost all in the cities.
And again, in terms of the education in Vietnam, it's not free. They have public schools, but the schooling is not free. Although if you talk to a Vietnamese national, if you ask them if they have to pay tuition, most of them will tell you that no, we don't have to pay tuition. However, the fees, they have to pay a fee in order to go to school. Actually, several different types of fees that add up. But they have names for them. They call them health insurance. They call them school maintenance fees. They call them, there's all kinds of insurance that go into that fee. And without being able to pay those fees, they cannot go to school, but they're not called tuition. Okay? And then, so in rural areas, most children also have to walk great distances to get to school. And in fact, I go back to Vietnam to do the interview, to interview students every March, and we meet our students and we talk to them, and a lot of them, they would be talking to us and they'll be crying because they have to walk so far to school. In addition to that, the family is so poor that they're hungry, and a lot of our students fainted at school because they're hungry when they're in school, or sit through class all day and then walking that great distances as well. So it's really difficult condition, not very conducive to learning. And then many of the children will stop going to school and must work to help their families. And we've been told many times, without our scholarship funds, that we meet with the family and the students, and most of them would sit there and said, without you guys, we don't know what we would do. And most of the students that we meet will express to us that we love more than anything to be able to go to school. And so they're very grateful and thankful for everything that we're able to help them with. And then the sad statistics is that a lot of the children are being sold, especially those that cannot go to school, or if the family is too poor to help them go to school. There's an epidemic, actually, of people, women and children, being trafficked, either across the border or to other neighboring countries, being sold into the sex trade, or a lot of them are also being sold within the country as for either the sex trade or for domestic servants. And the children who are not in school are most susceptible to being sold. The good thing about it is it only takes $2 to $20 a month to keep a child in school. So it's not a whole lot for us, but it's a great deal. It means a great deal to these students in Vietnam. So for VNSF,
That's a big range, 2 to 20.
Yeah.
How do you get that range?
We will get to that in a second, because it breaks down to different levels, because we fund students from primary school to college, and so that's where that fees comes in. Yeah. So the vision, yes.
What is the population growth in Vietnam?
The population growth.
It's pretty low. It's about 1% a year.
Yeah.
So you don't have many children per family.
Just like in the United States, it tends to be that people in the city have very few kids, and people in the country have a lot more kids. And sometimes they have kids because there's nothing else to do. Sometimes they have kids because they need help on the farm.
Yeah.
But overall, the population growth is actually fairly low.
Yes. So any other question? Okay. So the vision, VNSF's vision, is a brighter future through education for needy students in Vietnam. And our mission is to provide ongoing scholarships and other resources to impoverished, dedicated students who wish to pursue an education in Vietnam, primarily those in rural areas.
So our main program is our mainstream scholarship program. So I'm going to describe to you what that process is. So students are recommended by local representatives in each province, Right now we're operating in 5 provinces and in the south of Vietnam. And in each area we have 2 local representatives, and they recommend students to us. So those students will fill out applications, and those are then screened by our staff in Saigon to make sure that they're all filled out properly and that they've submitted their report cards and all that kind of stuff. And then volunteers, some from Seattle and some from Saigon, go each March to interview the kids in their own homes. And it's really an eye-opening experience. Actually, I haven't been. I'm scheduled to go next year, but Gwen has been.
I have been a couple of times, and it's very rewarding and sad at the same time. But it helps me to realize, what I'm doing is significant, and it affects somebody in a positive way.
And so after we've done all that volunteering, we have a sort of standard set of questions we ask during the interview. And then we bring those results back here, and the recipients are, the final section is done here by a Seattle-based committee. So the criteria we have are, number 1, financial need. And that's one of the reasons why we go to the student's home, is to be able to assess that compared to their peers. A lot of times we'll go into a village and most of the homes are bamboo poles and palm fronds. That's it, and plastic sheets. And that corrugated tin or corrugated fiberglass roof. Then you go into the next house, or the next interviewee, and they actually have a concrete home. And you go, well, this kid's not really poor, judged based on his peers. So we take that into consideration.
So how many and how many homes do you visit and what time?
So typically there are 2, 3, or 4 of us from Seattle, and 4 to 8 from Saigon. And we do a blitz tour over a weekend because that's when the kids, the families are available. And in past years, we've gone to one city and interviewed kids in that city, and then we go to the cities we've been to before and just visit our past kids. In 2007, we decided that we would fund kids in all of our provinces, new kids in all of our provinces. So we had to interview in 5 places in 2 days. So we split up in 2 groups. And even then, the distances are pretty far. So you're driving for several hours to get from one city to the next. And we pair up interviewers. So somebody's taking notes and somebody's asking the questions.
But you don't have to be just in the city, but you want to go to their homes.
Right, yeah, really, villages.
But we didn't go to their homes.
Right.
We go to their home to do the interviews in their home so that we can take pictures, and then we can record the impressions and the conditions, because one of the criteria is financial need. And like Paul said earlier, in the past we looked at the house and we said, oh well, this house is built, it has concrete walls, they look like they're well off. And then over the years, for me, I've learned that sometimes you look at that, but when you talk to them, that you find out that, well, the grandparents who have now passed away have gave them this chunk of money and said, okay, years ago said, okay, well, your housing condition looks terrible, and your children are getting sick because they're they're cold all the time and this and that. So the grandparents would give them money to build this up, but the parents and the children themselves don't have a whole lot of money. So that's why it's so important for us to visit them in their home and talk to the students and the parents as well.
Yeah. It is a mad dash to go to all these kids' homes, kind of all over the place. In some cases, we've had to actually take a boat to get to the homes because that's the only way you can get there.
How much of the funding goes towards doing the interviews, and how much of it goes?
I mean, I would assume that you try to do it pretty cheaply.
Right. So we spent about $1,500, I think, to interview 100 kids.
More than 100.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, because
Like the room and board for the interviewers is, $10 a night and you share a room.
And how about the airfare?
That's
By
paid for
us.
by
So
the volunteer.
so
That's
you
right.
go-
I have to pay my own way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I basically pay for everything until that weekend when we go on the interview trip. And then so we kind of pay for room and board and food for all the people who go on that trip. Other than that, all of us have to come up with our own airfare.
Right.
So if we're giving money, we're really giving it.
Yeah.
Right,
And that
right.
we want to make sure that it that way.
It does go to the kids.
Yeah.
Right. So the first criterion is financial need. The second one is grades. And we look at the grades of the kids that we get. And you have to meet a minimum of, they score on 1 to 10. So you have to have at least a 5 average. And the higher you score, the more likely you are to get a scholarship. And then the third one is a nebulous determination to succeed. And that's another reason for doing the interview. And some of the kids are just very motivated, very animated, and you really want to help those kids and keep them in school. And so that's one of our has always been one of our primary criteria. And we promise to continue to sponsor a kid once they're in our program for as long as they can stay in school and keep their grades up. So if they start with us in first grade, we'll stay with them all the way through medical school or however far they go. We take kids at any grade level to start. So some of them, we start them in 12th grade, and then they go to trade school. Some of them we start in 2nd grade, so it really varies. Okay. So what we give is a fixed stipend, depending upon where you live and what grade you're in. And at this point, we're pretty much in the rural provinces, so they're all the same. So in primary school, it's $40 a year. And that's actually more than it costs for the tuition. So they have money for books and supplies, and they have to wear uniforms. They have to provide their own uniforms. And in secondary school, high school, it's $60 a year. And these amounts seem really nominal. Like, how can you not afford $40 a year, $60 a year? But when the per capita income is only $700, and actually that's a national average. So for a lot of our families, the income for a family of 5 or 6 will be $500. And so it's really unaffordable to keep all 3 kids in school.
You don't give the families any money to offset the fact that the kids aren't working.
We don't.
So the families are taking that hit financially.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and
So
that's why our scholarship amount is higher than because we have done the survey and we know how much it costs for these grade levels in terms of just the strictly tuition, all these fees. But we added more on top of that because, we know that will go toward
But
help the
still, they're
family.
not getting the
It's not.
labor of the child.
Right.
Yeah.
who's
It
not
doesn't
in the
replace the
field.
labor.
Right.
Right.
So it's a partnership with the family. It's not like go ahead and have as many kids as you want. We'll pay for them. No, it's the family has to want the kids to go to school, and that's really a necessary part of success in school is to have support of the family. So vocational school is trade school. A lot of our students are going to learn how to become a tour guide. So they learn English and they learn about the local area or any other trade. Then we distinguish between colleges and universities. So college, which are local provincial colleges, it's $200 a year. And then there are really only 3 places where there are universities. There's Hanoi, Saigon, and there's a new university in Anyang, which is in the south, which is actually a province that we serve. But so the stipend for those is $300 a year. So I forget who's covering which. Am I still talking?
Yes.
Okay. So in the areas we serve, you can see they're all in the south. So there are 5 Mekong Delta provinces. We started in Cà Mau, which is the very, very southern tip, because the idea was we'd start at the south and slowly work our way north. And we're actually working in the town of Cà Mau, which is the capital of the province. but sort of in the rural areas of that town. Then next year we moved up to Bac Lieu, which is the neighboring province to the north. And then we went to Haoyang, which is a little bit further inland, not actually adjacent. And then to Dom Thap. And this year we started in Anyang. And I actually misspelled Anyang.
I just noticed that.
There's no H in Anyang.
Is the town of, so Saigon is actually 2 words in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's written as 2 words?
Yeah.
Just like with Hanoi in Viet, because Vietnamese is a monosyllabic language.
Okay.
So we don't have the 2 sound in 1 word.
I see.
So like Hanoi is also 2 separate words, but then when
Interesting.
they write it,
I didn't know that either.
And the name of our foundation is Viet Nam Scholarship Foundation.
Yeah.
4 words.
Okay.
So would we probably
Probably yes.
Well, except that they spell it differently in Vietnamese, and then it will break it up into different.
Okay.
So we currently have over 200 students in those 6 areas. And they range from grade school all the way through college. And in Saigon, they're all college kids.
So as of this year, we have a new scholarship program. It's called the Dao Memorial Scholarship. And this scholarship program was funded by the family of Dao Sunan, who was a NASA engineer who passed away suddenly last year. So this scholarship is used to fund a college student studying engineering or science, and that will fund them for boarding, for tuition, books, room and board for the duration of their college career. And we have our very first Dao scholar. His name is Ho Vang Phu, and that started as of this fall. And
one thing we didn't put in here, it's a $1,000 scholarship, so it's way more than our normal scholarship. So it provides them the ability to go back home if they're not living near school, and provides them, with the ability to survive.
So you'll have up to 4 students at one time as they're going through school? Or?
well, right now, because of the funding from the Dao family, we're looking at having 1 student, and we're working with them to see, to support that student all the
So
way.
your funding for them is $1,000 a year?
Yeah.
But we're pushing siblings to donate more so we can have more scholars.
We're working
in
on
this.
that. And in terms of the infrastructure of our organization, we have the Seattle Board, and then we have a Saigon Board in Vietnam, because we need that link, that bridge, that communication in order for us to carry out our work. So in the Seattle Board, we have the Seattle Board of Directors, which consists of 5 volunteer board members. We are the central administration, and we're responsible for setting policies and programs. We make decisions on, the students that we choose to fund the scholarships. And then we're also the people responsible for fundraising. Hence, we're here. And then in Vietnam, the Saigon Board, we have 2 volunteers and 1 paid staff. It's half paid staff. And this person actually is our former student. He graduated from college. He has a full-time job, but he is very passionate about VNSF, and so he started out as volunteers, and the work got to be quite a bit, and so we decided that we would pay him part-time.
how much is that, by the way?
$100
a month.
And so that includes his pay plus supplies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, mailing and things like that.
Yeah.
Because he has to contact our local contacts in all the provinces.
I see.
And
So
things
that
like that.
includes his expenses, too.
Right.
It's not just his salary, it's also
Yeah. And-
Things like internet connection. You pay by the download. And so like an email is a download. I don't know if a movie costs more than an email. But so it's hard to predict what your internet usage fee is going to be for the month. So we just give them a fixed amount.
It's quite confusing how it's charged in Vietnam, and I've had multiple conversations with him and other people. I'm like, oh, can't understand it. But yeah, so this also for the Saigon Board, they're also responsible, like I mentioned earlier, for coordinating with the local contacts. They gather applications from the local contacts and collecting report cards, because if we don't receive a report card from a student, we would not send out the fund for that particular semester until we receive the report card indicating that they have passed. And then they also are responsible for withdrawing money that we send from here and send to the students. They help us tremendously with coordinating the logistics for our interview trip every year, because they know the way better than we do. They're also responsible for compliance with Vietnam's laws, and they carry out the CAR Board's decisions. In terms of accomplishments, we have grown in 5 years from having 20 students to over 200 students. And we have our first Dao Scholar. We have students returning. Besides our staff, we do have another student. This is our staff. And then we have another volunteer who has a great job, and he serves as volunteers for us. So that's something that we are very proud of. Your turn again, Paul.
Okay. So our short-term goals, getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Next year we want to sponsor 150 more students. So we grow from 200 to 350. We want to develop libraries at schools that are attended by our students, because most schools in Vietnam do not have libraries. It's just not part of the infrastructure that they have. And there's a group called Inspire Vietnam that is piloting a program right now to build a library in a school in Saigon. And so we want to bring that to the schools where our students are attending. And the way that works is we provide the capital to refurbish a room and provide the initial supply of books, and the school has to promise to maintain the library, have a librarian there, and provide time for the kids to go to the library. And it wouldn't be just for our students, it's for the school as a whole. In the past, we've provided bicycles to a couple of our students on an emergency basis because they just couldn't get to school, or it took them an hour to get to school. So we're looking into a program now where it would be kind of a regular thing where we would find out which kids need bicycles and provide those. And we'd like to expand to other provinces. It's our dream to eventually cover all the provinces of Vietnam. So we want to fulfill our vision, which is a brighter future through education for the kids in Vietnam, through donors like you. So remember us and sign up for the payroll deduction plan. We like that. And any one-time donations you do, make sure they get matched. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. Do you have any other questions?
They are listed on the Giving Campaign's website, so if you guys can find it. So yeah, you'll get matched. It should be pretty easy to find.
Right, and if people can't find them somehow, just mail me and I'll tell you what their number is on the site. Also, since there are not so many people here now, if you could, when you go out and you hear other people wondering what they should give money to, you can mention that you heard this talk, and if you found it compelling, that it was compelling. And this is archived also, so you can tell people, hey, this was a cool thing. And if you're looking for what to do, they can, someone can just get online and look at this talk archive.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Yes?
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions. You've been doing this for some time, and you've been working obviously with a number of students directly, so you have some pretty interesting insights that I would love to get your opinions on.
Okay.
Have you found any patterns on which students tend to be more successful over the long run, or who are students that you end up funding over a longer amount of time?
Yeah, so being a younger organization, we don't have, we're just developing a student database. So we don't,
Like impressions, I don't need it to be that scientific.
Yeah.
In terms of impression, for the students that we visit, there are students we see who are very motivated and the grades are really, really great. And so for the most part, and the family is very supportive. So you see, and when you talk to the parents would sit there with tears down their cheeks and said, we're really poor and, it's truly a struggle. There are days when I don't know what I would do with them, but I tell them no matter what, you need to go to school. Those students tend to be the ones that, they keep up the good grades. And there are students, we have had students where their grades are right at the border of the cutoff grades for us. And we just feel, okay, we would like to give them a chance, give them that opportunity because without us, there's a greater chance that they will drop out and then they will be victims of human trafficking and things like that. And so therefore, we support those students. And sometimes those students don't do as well, and we know this, but as long as they pass, they show us the grade reports with passing grades, we continue to support them.
The parents that are super supportive, because it sounds like that is a key component or a very large indicator.
Yeah.
Do you find that they're more motivated by trying to keep their kids in schools to prevent, really bad things happening, or is it more to keep their kids in school because it presents this phenomenal opportunity?
Because
Okay.
yeah, basically because I have to say, for most Vietnamese, education is key. I mean, the parents, any parents that you talk to, most of them said, I know that education is the only way out. It's the only opportunity for my children, for my family to get out of poverty. And so most Vietnamese people that you talk to really truly value education, so they really push for it. And
you can see that in the statistics, because like 83%, whatever it is, at least start school.
Okay.
So that the parents really do want them to get educated.
Yeah. And the literacy rate for Vietnam, we haven't been able to pinpoint the exact number, but for most, there's conflicting, there's a range, but for the most part, they're pretty high in the 80s for the country as a whole. And when considering Vietnam is a developing country, that's a pretty high literacy rate. And so it has to do with the values of
it's reading at a very basic
culture.
level, but
This
almost
indicates
everybody
that
gets to
people-
school.
Yeah, the people who have had very little schooling still
Right.
have become literate, which is impressive.
But the thing that I love about us trying to do the library program is they're literate, but I was born in Vietnam. I left Vietnam when I was in 7th grade. I was 12, right? And that was quite a while ago. And when I see these students writing letters, and sometimes they write essays, or they do communicate with us, so they send us letters, grammatical errors and spelling errors are quite awful. And I'm able to pick them out. So I'm thinking, and it's because they don't have access to books. Most of them are not able to read books. That's the program that Paul mentioned earlier with
right. So
pairing
we're
up
gonna,
with another.
yeah, we partner with the schools and another U.S.-based organization to go to a school and refurbish a room to be used as a library, and we provide the books. And then the school then operates the library.
I'll sidetrack with a related but completely orthogonal story. I'm a second-generation immigrant myself. I was born in Chicago. My parents are immigrants from a very, very small village in India, out in the middle of nowhere. My dad grew up in a small village, and his brother was a tailor. So what do kids do? They've got to loiter somewhere. He loitered in his brother's shop because what else are you going to do? And next door to his brother's tailor shop was a used bookstore. And so he ended up spending a lot of time there, just to spend the time. I don't know, but perchance there were a number of books there on nuclear engineering, which he ended up reading, and it sparked an interest. And later on, he came to the United States. He got a PhD in nuclear engineering from Case Western. He was a professor at the University of Illinois for 36 years, and it was a journey that would have never happened had he not been exposed to those books.
Right. And that's You know, that's another thing too, is when we go and talk to our students, most of them tell us that they want to be a teacher. About, I would say from the students we interview, about 80% of them tell us that they want to be teachers, because those are the only, you know, people that, respectable people that they're exposed to on a daily basis. And teachers are really, really well respected in Vietnam. I mean, there was an interview trip that I went 2 years ago where we had a teacher who acted as a guide to take us to different houses, because, you know, they're in these areas where there's no addresses for them. And so without a guide, with a local guide, we would not be able to find these places at all. And so, walking with this teacher, I'm reminded of how much teachers are respected over there. I mean, we walk down this narrow path and people would come out and like, you know, hello teacher, and they you know, very respectful. So yeah, so most of the kids that we interview said they want to become teachers, and then the other half say they want to be police officers. So that's why I think we need books. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.